I gotta go sit down. That's right. So what are we doing?
Hello, everybody. Hey. Evil eye. Yeah, you're gonna sit. I'll sit right here. You sit there. Steph, there you go. Right here. Let's get it right. No, just use it with me. Who want that on you now? I'm very happy.
Here. Mr. Duffy? Here. Ms. Gilmore is present. Mr. Lesh?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew? Mr. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Present.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Mrs. Dixon? Present. I'm present.
Okay, Mr. Laffey, would you bring us up to date as to the refinancing and what we brought to the last meeting?
Sir, we have tonight before you, your agenda tonight, you'll have a resolution to approve the advanced refinancing of 2011 Cs. Mr. Vin from the Finance School, Mr. Nancy from CSE have brought a summary document that I believe was handed out at the prior meeting as well, to kind of discuss some of the future savings that the district can realize and the timeline and some of the cost of issues and those transactions.
Yeah, it's exactly what we went through at the last board meeting on the 26th. Mr. Schuster asked for, rightly so, asked for a breakdown of the cost of issuance. And I did include that, I believe it's in your board packet, so exactly what's in front of you is exactly what received in the board packet. So it's exactly what we went over at the last board meeting, except with the actual breakdown of the cost of issuance. Those are estimated, they could be a little bit lower than that, but when all said and done, I'm going to be conservative. Net of all fees, it's approximately $1,060,000 of the life net savings to the district. Since we last met last Monday, interest rates actually worked in your favor, including today. So it's actually probably a little bit more than that. It's probably a little bit more than $1.1 million of net saving. But authorizing it tonight, if the board would so choose, would give us the authorization to go ahead and lock that in. If the board does decide to pass the resolution tonight, we'd be looking to lock in those savings on September 19th. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you had about this or anything that you're willing to discuss.
The 1.1 million is over the course of this.
That is correct. So it'd be level savings in every year. You're not extending the term of the debt. You're actually just going from a higher interest rate to a lower interest rate, similar to a mortgage. And it's approximately $90,000 every year over the next, I believe it is 12 years.
And when you talk about the costs of issuance, is that something that we pay up front?
No, that would actually be rolled in. So those savings, those costs of issuance get taken into account and they get amortized over the life. So
Okay.
that's your net savings, so you know you do not.
So the savings take those costs into
Absolutely,
account?
100%.
Okay, great, thank you.
And the resolution also is the same as we talked about the other evening. The only change that we made to that after our meeting last week, on the old bonds, on the 2011 bonds, Community Bank is the paying agent. They're actually getting out of the business, so we didn't want to appoint them as escrow agent and then have them leave a year from now before the escrow is. So we also added into this resolution, switching that to Fidelity, who's going to be the new paying agent, which makes it a little bit easier. And that deal's only going to be out for another year until the escrow pays off. So that's the only addition that we added in that we'll still have.
Any questions? Okay, Pat, at this time, I would like to know if you would update us a little bit on the payroll tax at tonight's resolution.
Certainly, yeah. As you noted, you've been presented tonight with a resolution to consider and approve the conversion to a payroll tax. The resolution tonight is authorizing the administration and solicitor to prepare a voter referendum for the November election. The Act 1 timeline dictates that that has to be done by September 6th. So that is for your consideration tonight. We've looked over some of the information. We've met with the city. We're in working with the city and Berkheimer as well to identify what our taxable wage base is. We've come up with a tax rate of 0.793% or 0.00793. So that would be the rate that we would need to levy to become revenue neutral in year one if the conversion was approved. We've compared some data, growth rate of payroll versus growth rate of gross receipts, which is what your business village mercantile is based off of. Over the course of the last 5 years, from 2018, which is unaudited, but we've confirmed it with the single tax office back to 2014. The earned income tax received by the school district, that are based off of wages and come via Berkheimer, did outpace the current year collections only of the business village mercantile from the data received from the single tax office by 2.41% over a total of 5 years. So it was roughly about 0.48% increase each year ahead of the BP business village mercantile gross receipt rate. Some of the data that came from Berkheimer had about $1,368 million of taxable wages that Berkheimer felt may be subject to this tax. The single tax office had reviewed it and identified roughly $485 million that would be classified as non-taxable government entities that wouldn't be subject to the tax, leaving a wage base of about $882 million. Again, the resolution is to authorize us to apply to the County Board of Elections for the referendum. And if the taxpayers did approve that in the November election, the school board would have the opportunity to consider the conversion with our December budget effective for the 2020 school year.
So
Calendar year.
so we would still have time to ask questions in between that time span on different areas that we would want clarification.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we confer with Solicitor Audi that if the referendum is worded in the appropriate way, it leaves that decision up to the school board in December whether the conversion would be approved or not.
We don't have until December, so just asking, or applying to see if we can put this on a referendum. Now, I've been getting some conflicting information. Now, did Pittsburgh do this or not? Was this ever put on a,
The city of Pittsburgh has done this. The school district.
so this is the, okay, so the district has not. Because I heard some different information. I'm still unclear, I'm hearing information from a couple different parties, so, also, they don't need us to do this referendum, the city, correct? Like, I'm confused.
We've confirmed with PDE's council that the city could take on this transition without the school district.
And does the PDE recommend that we do this, go this route of referendum?
They recommended the referendum, correct? If we were to consider further guidelines of the taxpayer relief act in the school code, they would consider a referendum the appropriate way.
Let me clarify that. I just so there's not any misunderstanding. It's true. PDE is not recommending that we do the business employment.
No, I understand, but
They're recommending and they're advising that should we choose to go, we must go through the
the
referendum
route of
process.
referendum, okay.
So they're not actually giving an opinion as to whether it's a better idea or not a better
That's
idea.
absolutely correct.
So my cause and concern, I think any other year other than this year, the BP mercantile tax is something that might be a little bit outdated and be helpful to the business community in this area. That being said, this is probably the worst financial year that we've ever had in the history of the Scranton School District, and we're going to make a proposition to garner $7.1 million from another source for no other reason than it's helpful to the business community and the city wants us to do it. I just feel like, and putting it out to a referendum, I mean, I think that there has to be crystal clear clarity as to what the voters are voting on. They're voting on what? They're voting on applying another tax to a person and taking a tax away from a business. Is that essentially what that is?
No, it would be an employer tax. It would not be an employee tax. If the employer would pay, unlike an EIT, which is the employee tax, this would be an employer tax on their payroll.
So what would it do for the business community in a positive? What's the pitch for us to help?
It's not a gross sales.
The thing is, it's on gross sales, so if you sell a car at 80 grand and you have a minimal amount of profit, you're still paying on 80 grand. Like anyone who owns a store, like my wife's family owns a store, their margin is small, but they're paying on everything. That's why the business community hates
So
this.
what's included in income? Or is 1099 income included in that?
The 1099 income would not be payroll. So it was, I don't believe 1099 income would. I do have the regulations from Pittsburgh with me. I believe it has to be any commissions, incentives, salaries paid via payroll. I'm not sure if 1099 are included. I apologize.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm confused, Mr. McAndrew's confused, you're not exactly sure, and we're dealing with this. The public at large, I think, is going to have a big problem with what is this exactly, how will it affect me in my personal interest in the money that I take home, is it going to be any different for me? And I think we have to get that clear.
I think that's the work we need to do over the next several months, because I think we have 2 steps to this process.
Yeah, so at this point in time, we're on a timeline here for the referendum.
Right,
However, I don't
unfortunately.
think we've ever had a decent presentation
No, and
about what.
I think that's, I mean, Pat and I have been working diligently to collect information. He's been working with Mr. Bolzoni.
Right.
I do think an opportunity to present that not only to this board, but to the community at large is imperative.
Yeah.
Because I think, Paul, to your point, I'm just going to keep talking, I'm sorry.
No,
I
no.
think to your point, this is, we have to get this information out there. We have to understand this. Unfortunately, the timeline with Act 1 ties our hands to put this to referendum, which essentially, and that's not necessarily something, I don't want to shirk our responsibility, but but that is taking the decision out of our hands. That is putting the decision to the voters. And I think it's our job and the city's job to work together over the next several months to present this fully so that we all understand it, so that the community understands it, and that the voters are making an informed choice.
But not even that though, because the referendum would be authorizing the board to do it if the board wanted. So we're asking the public to let the board have the choice. So that's even, I know that sounds convoluted, but that's my understanding is correct? Yeah, so it just gives the board an option if the public approves it. So this, and it's the law, but it's silly, so we're voting to ask we're gonna vote to see if the voters want this, and they're going to give us the choice if we want it again. I know that that's really convoluted, but that's the law.
And here's the thing, we're getting information from the tax office who's been collecting it. We know what we're getting from the tax office next year. We know what that's going to be. So while we work our way through this, we don't know exactly what that's going to be. We don't know how it's going to be collected. We don't know how easy it's going to be to transfer in 1 year. We don't know a lot of things that we should know, and we're going to put it out on a referendum to ask the voters to make the decision for us to make our decision again. It's truly perplexing to me that this is even an issue for us right now. We have a lot of other things to be concentrating on, and to risk $7 million, or potentially risk $7 million, for the idea of something that could be helpful, when we just passed a LRTA for any business coming into the city is not going to have to pay any of those taxes for the first 10 years, right? Or some of those taxes are going to, and we're gambling on $7 million for the possible percentage of 0.5% of $70,000, $35,000 difference that may occur if we go to this plan that may or may not work.
Can Mike talk a little bit about the reason why we have to do this right now in terms of Act 47 in the state, in the city? Rather?
Certainly. The guidance we received says that the school district may opt into it while they're within the city, within municipality that is also in recovery. They state that you must put the referendum out at the election immediately preceding your budget year, which for us would end. The city, I believe, leaves recovery in August of 2020. So this is the time.
And the referendum has to be before our budget year, during which this would be.
The only time this could be done is while the city is in recovery.
That's the guidance.
That we know.
No, I'm just making sure that I'm aware that they get out of recovery next year, it becomes a dead issue.
And
It does.
if
That's
the board
correct.
actually wanted to go ahead and finally adopt it, it would be up to the next school board.
It would be, if
It would be
the referendum passed, it would be presented to the board in the month of December for January 2020.
So that would be the
next
next
school
school board.
When we levy.
So to follow up on what Katie was saying, I agree, like the voters need to know what they're voting on. And we don't have several months because this is going to go on the November ballot. So we need to get a solid presentation of facts soon, like beginning of October.
To 70,000 people.
Who makes that presentation?
Wouldn't the
I
chamber
think
get
that-
involved?
I think that's a possibility, and I think the city and the district will partner to make that happen. I think certainly we have our own social media, we have Electric City Television. I think we have a lot of vehicles to get this information out, and certain that the newspaper will be devoted to this topic, since they think we lightly dismissed it, which we quite clearly did not. But I think we have a lot of opportunities to get this information out there. And I think Pat and I think many of the people we've discussed this with would be very honest to say there are pros and cons to this. If there was a clear answer, I think we would have stopped this conversation a month ago. I think I don't think we could have. I think we had to continue to work through this and continue to uncover the information. Because I mean, as recently as Saturday, Pat was saying, hey, I thought of this way of looking at this, and I was considering the, do you want to talk a little bit about the growth and the?
So, I mean, obviously, we're showing a 5-year comparison of what revenues were growing faster. However, there's been, with the business privilege delinquents, there's been a big push to obviously identify some of those delinquent taxes. I mean, just in the last couple of years, there's been $a few million for the single tax office reports that have been identified as delinquent business privilege workers' house taxes. Well, now that those are identified, we can expect to see somewhat of that reoccurring as they continue to do business in the city of Scranton. So, from 2014 to 2018, yes, there's a growth, but if you compare 2018's first 8 months to 2019's first 8 months, it's not as steep of an increase or disparity in the increase as a prior 5-year history.
Can I just ask, Mr. Audi, excuse me, is there a time frame, a limited time frame on this resolution, 90 days, it has to be enacted? Could it go into next year's budget, or tax budget, before you make a decision? Like December, you're looking at kind of a short period of time for this year's budget coming up. If you were to go ahead and have this referendum in place, we didn't have all the information out there by the time this coming budget is up, could it be postponed for a year?
No, it can't, because under the statute, it has to be done while the city is under Act 47. So it cannot extend.
Let me ask this, Attorney Audi, is this a plausibly risky proposition for the school district?
Well, sure, it is, because once you set the rate, you get one more crack at correcting that rate, and then at that point, your rate is set. So depending on how the economy goes and how employment goes in that city, once your rate is set, you can no longer adjust it. So if the economy should spiral down and jobs go down with it, so too with your income that you're getting from that rate. So to me, that's a risk.
Dr. Fine, do you think it's plausibly risky that if we were to go along and change this?
I was raised with the old saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, that saying, and the bird in the hand is what we're doing now. I think it is risky because we don't know. We also don't know what the economy will do. The fact that we would be the first school district in Pennsylvania to do this makes it risky from my point of view too.
Thank you.
Can I just make one more statement?
Mr. Laffey, do you think this is plausibly a risky proposition for the school district?
Yes, of course. I mean, we have a wage base of what we feel is taxable, and we develop a rate off of that. But I mean, even just like if a 2% disparity could, result in, a significant decrease in our current year budget.
So everyone here that deals with the money with the school district thinks it's risky, along with our solicitor. And we're going to put it out there for the voters to vote on without all the information and plausibly do something this year with $7 million, that's risky.
It's not binding. It's not binding.
Right.
A yes gives us more time and gives us more options. A no shuts a door.
Right. This is the same option like we have to exceed the cap. Doesn't mean we have to do it, it's an option. I just want to make one more statement. So, of course, this has to be a data-driven decision. We don't have the data. That's the only problem I have, or conflicting data. I hear data from two different sources. That's the only problem I have is it has to be data-driven, but we don't have the data. So
A lot of data did come in our packets. There is, and I think this information is coming to us piecemeal, and it absolutely needs to be delivered in one presentation. We have the example of the tax legislation, regulation, what's the word I'm looking for, from Pittsburgh, how this would be laid out. We have the growth rate comparisons. So I think, we have been building tangible information, because I agree with you. the beginning of this conversation all started with, well, the BPM tax is archaic. No one could really tell me why, and I still don't feel like I have a great answer in regard to that, but we do have some other facts and figures that make this, tip the scales both ways. But one of the things I did want to ask about is the BPM rate, is that variable, or is that set?
We have 3 rates.
Right.
There's a mercantile retail, mercantile wholesale, and a business coverage rate.
Right.
So we'd be eliminating the 3 rates and applying one.
But when we talk about the conversion, and we only get 2 opportunities to set that rate, are those 3 rates something that can be changed, or are they locked in?
I believe they've been locked in. You mean the prior rates, like what we're operating at?
Right.
Yeah, they're locked. Right.
That was my understanding as well. So, I mean, that, it's the same argument on both sides of it. And that's the thing we're coming up against. You look at one piece of this and you say, well, that's why this isn't a good idea. And then you look and you say, well, the same thing is happening over here. So how does that make the BPM tax more attractive than payroll prep tax, or vice versa? You go back and forth.
In a nutshell, if jobs increase and wages increase in the city, it's a benefit if we pass this program, correct?
To be honest with you, I don't know if I can answer that question. As I said before, I think that, their wages historically have grown quicker than the gross receipts. But with the initiative taken out by the city and the school district to identify delinquencies, it's kind of narrowed that margin, I think, in the most recent years.
So here's what bothers me about the premise of this program. Is we're in our own recovery program, and as everyone realizes, one of the biggest caveats in this program is that we're going to increase real estate taxes substantially for 5 years. I cannot see how that promotes business or wage growth. I think you're going to have a very, very large fence for people to climb over to come to the city of Scranton and open up a business and employ people and enhance this program. I think that the school district, is the biggest obstacle to this program because of the fact that we're going to raise taxes as things stand right now for 5 years. And I can't understand how we can bank on economic growth with this happening. And again, I know if we pass this, it ultimately was up to the next school board, and quite a few of us here won't be on that board, and it's a daunting task for them to take on, and there's an awful lot of cloudy doubts about this. There's so many things. I would love, before we actually start this program, I wish we could have had a productive meeting with the city council, with the mayor, with the school board, with all of our expertise and administrators in there, and get some real answers on this. I'm all for helping the city. I'm all for helping city government. That's great. I know we're all in the same pot, but we're in a position now where we can't even help ourselves. And to take on this responsibility, it's a tough one. It really is.
So I just want to clarify the process. The process tonight is to vote to send it to referendum. We're not voting to accept it by any means. Then an informative something, meeting, town hall, whatever, more than one, probably 2 or 3, to inform the taxpayers and ourselves as well of what they're voting on, and then to bring it back to the board at budget time, which will be the new board, to vote yes or no. Is that what I'm understanding? Is that the process?
Yes. We'll start out if the wording of the referendum has to be appropriate, so then allow the authority of the school board to make the change.
Yeah, if the first of all, if the referendum is voted down, that's the end of this discussion. I would think that we could try to put in, we have to say if it passes the election board's rules, that we would like to say if appropriate, or give us an opportunity to potentially do it, should the voters pass it with the yes vote.
Attorney Audi, what happens if the voters vote it down?
That's it, then it's done, done.
Attorney Audi, in the next few weeks, if, let's say some of these meetings occur between us and the school and the city. Let's say we pass this tonight, we pass this resolution tonight, and in the next few weeks, as I said, we have these meetings, and some troubling concerns really come up. Does this board have the opportunity to stop it? Or is it automatically going to a referendum?
We'll go to a referendum if the people decide to vote on it, even if they decide yes.
No, but I understand that, but I mean, if the people, you know, the voters can be given any type of, you know, like, there was a referendum, there was a county,
Yeah, nobody understood
put
that.
out. I understand that, and what makes you think that they're gonna understand this one either? I mean, you know, you're asking an awful lot of the electorate. You're asking an awful lot of the electorate to make a very informed decision. The people here don't have the information right now to make an informed decision, and it's perplexing to me how we go about this. If after we sat down with the mayor and the council and everything like that, and we all as a board got together and said, I don't like it, doesn't make sense to me. There's nothing we can do. It's already got, it's going to.
To answer your question, I have never seen something that a board or an agency is authorized to take to referendum, rescind it after we go to the election or for the referendum. Never seen it.
So if we pass this tonight, it's a pretty good, it's almost a certain.
There's a very strong.
It's going to the voter.
Yeah, without me doing extensive research and seeing if there's any loopholes that I'm not aware of.
I understand.
Without that, on a general basis, it would be going to referendum.
But we still have the opportunity, if the voters vote yes to this, and the new board comes together, to really review it and vote it down.
It is, we would word the referendum to allow for that possibility.
Okay.
So
But then we could still vote it down, the new board, if they choose that they didn't feel that.
Yes, if the referendum is so worded, but we would know that. The elections office has to approve the wording of the referendum.
Okay.
And they'll look at the statute to see if it's in compliance with the statute.
Okay.
So three things I'm going to say. So this discussion was going on since 2016. Why the board has never really been privy to the conversation, I don't know why. But I think passing this tonight starts that discussion, and we could start to see some information. And I do think there's a meeting coming up in the near future that if we shoot this down tonight, we don't get that discussion, we don't get that conversation. And I think we'd be leaving an option on the table. One thing I did hear Pat say is that it seems the BPM may be a little flatter than we thought, because we're starting to identify some of these delinquent fees, things such as that. So if we're going to look past the new collections, the business privilege tax, they're saying it's antiquated because it is starting to flatten out. Is that correct?
Well, our initial look took BPM as a total, all right, and we were seeing that was increasing at a greater rate than the per capita wages. In the meeting with the city discussion with Mr. Bolzoni, we pulled out the delinquencies and we looked only at the current year collections as provided by the single tax office. But in seeing some of the delinquencies that they've identified in the past 2 or 3 years, it is significant dollars. And then knowing that those businesses now are registered or identified that operate in the city, this could increase current year collections as now that they've been identified.
So it's essentially the exact opposite.
Right.
Well, I'm reading something here I got from the tax collector that I just received as I sat down. And it looks like it took them 7 years from 2005 to 2011, okay, to there was constant shortfalls to the student tax, this payroll tax. Right, there was a discrepancy of $3 million the first year. That's the city of Pittsburgh. They collected $47.8 million, and there was a $3 million shortfall in that collection for the payroll tax. Now, you know, it's fine, the city's pretty much on its feet right now, all right? But for the past many years, as we all know, the city's been flat, okay? It's been behind the 8 ball. And yeah, there's always been a lot of talk at these city council meetings about this, but nothing was never done. And the reason why is because of the fiscal shape that the city's been in. But since they got their sewer landfall and all this other stuff, all right, sure, they're in a better position to say, we'll take the chance, maybe we'll lose a few bucks each year, okay, but yeah, but we need the district to come along with us. Well, we're in that black hole right now. We can't afford this. This is crazy. It's asinine. I've never seen us sit here and have the least amount of information on something, and we're going to vote to okay the people, or okay a referendum for something we don't even know about?
Well, I think the issue is the timing.
The issue is all about the business people in this town.
We are putting the cart before the horse here.
They're looking for another tax cut, okay? They don't give a damn about this district. That's what it's all about.
I'm not sure that that's the
Well, I
case.
think
I
it's
think
very
the
true.
issue here is that we have to put the cart before the horse.
No, I don't think we do.
Unfortunately, because of the timing.
That's very bad, in my
Well,
books.
I agree.
Nobody
It is
puts a
very
cart
bad that
before
we're in
a
this
horse.
position, but I didn't write the Act 1
Well,
tax regulations.
you know what? They're Johnny-come-lately in my book, okay? They had all these years to do it, all right?
And I
All
don't
of a
disagree
sudden-
with you. My
Oh,
concern
please.
is it seems as though
Please.
these conversations
Sounds like
are
there's some
taking
people that
place.
are looking for a tax break.
And
on our
trying to
backs.
get the information
And if
out
I
to
was
you.
the general public, I'd never vote in favor of this. You gotta guarantee, like the doctor said, you got a bird in the hand. And that's a good saying there, but I go along with you 110%. It's better than 2 in the bush. Because there's nothing in this bush. I guarantee you that. Only for people to make more money around here, they're already making money.
Who's going to collect the tax, Park Ira?
I believe that's been
Would go to
decided.
bid, wouldn't it?
What's that?
Wouldn't that go to bid? That was my understanding at one point.
I think it would have to be a decision made by the city and school district to possibly allocate.
Somebody making more money. It's gonna cost, and then every one of the businesses that challenge this, okay, there's gonna be another deal. I guarantee you, it's not well thought out, it hasn't been well discussed. As you said, there's no presentation, as we all said so far, there has been no presentation. We're like fools here with a blank piece of paper. Sure, I'll vote for that. It's crazy.
Mr. McDermott, I know you've only been in the position for a short period of time, but you are the superintendent, for sure.
I just think at this point in time, I think there's more information needed. And from what we've heard, from the consensus, what we've heard is, there's nothing that's saying that, as Katie said before, we read something and we say, oh, okay, but then on the other end, it's kind of contradicting it. So I can't say that it's something, and having no other district done this, and we're gonna take the lead on this, I'm not really sure that we're in a situation at this time. But
Well, you know who will pay for this? Okay, if there's shortfalls, or if there's any issues in this, people that are sitting in this room, the people that live right here on this board, we are going to pay the shortfalls. Okay, just like what's going on today with the recovery plan, these people in the room are going to pay for it, just like the rest of us. All right, but now we're going to pay more. Right here it says here, they did a study a few years ago. All right, and that study, let's see here, let me find the second page here. That this city had gotten the highest revenues in the state for this business privilege tax, all right, mercantile tax. Now you're gonna throw that away for something you don't even know about? I think that's damn foolish.
Mr. Lesher, are you reading from the letter dated August 8th?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So you're referring to number 8, the business privilege mercantile tax Collectors Association.
That's correct.
Any other comments?
Just to clarify one more time, the referendum simply allows us the time to present this information, continue to gather facts, present those facts to this board and to this community. It does not tie our hands to make this decision in December.
No, it doesn't, but it doesn't allow us the opportunity to change change our minds on this. Once it's done, if we vote to pass this tonight, the wheels start to turn.
On the referendum, but not on the decision to convert the tax.
To the next step. And if in the meantime, we realize or we rethink the program or we get more information that we don't like, that doesn't favor this program, there's nothing we can do about it.
But in that time, we have the opportunity to convey that opinion to the voters,
well,
thereby perhaps influencing the choice.
You can't get information to 9 people, how are you going to get it to 76?
You can see how much my information got.
And on top of that, I mean, we're also allowing propaganda to pop in. If the businesses like this and they get together and start to support it, they can pitch this favorably however they want. Numbers are written to the number keeper, and that's the way this is going. I'm not interested in passing the buck to the voters, nor am I interested in passing it to another board. That's been done to me. I've been on this board for 4.5 years now, feels like 40, and a lot of things have been passed to us. I'm not willing to pass it to somebody else, and if people are going to be upset by the decision that I make tonight, because I think it's in the best interest of every single person in the city to not do this, then they're going to be upset. But this is not the right thing to do.
So I'm just going to say, if we move forward with the referendum, it allows us to explore this option. We have a chance to say no in the end.
We're going to explore it. We still have the chance to say no right now.
Judge, Tom, I disagree with you. If we vote, we don't have another opportunity. We're done. If we vote, then this board is done. We've done what we can do. If we pass this resolution tonight, then there's no retreating it from it by us. The voters can take care of it and reject it, maybe. The new board maybe, but this board can't. This board can't. And what bothers me is the high salary people here, the big shots, the administrators here, that have more information and knowledge and expertise than all of us, are against it. Dr. Finan has spoken against it. Ms. McTiernan has spoken against it, and Attorney Audi is not too thrilled with it.
But a referendum will put it in the people's hands. For the people to decide if they want to hear more.
I understand that.
And then the board always has an opportunity.
I'd like to just go on record, though. I didn't really say I was against it. I think you know what you're getting from the BP Merck tax.
Bird in the hand.
Yeah, bird in hand. My issue is, as a board and in recovery, as Mr. Lesh just said, we don't have a lot of extra dollars to fall back on. If we don't collect that $7.2 million, where will we get that money for the next budget year? That's my concern, okay? I know that we know what we're getting from the BP Merck now. And a lot of work has been done, believe me. Pat, Katie have done a lot of work on this. Mr. Audi's done work, we've looked at it. I just think it's not as clear as it needs to be when you're sitting on a board trying to make this kind of decision.
Would there be any sense in tabling this until the next meeting?
You can't, because you don't have the time frame. The time frame is dictated by the law, which is the conversion of a tax, and under Act 1, the conversion requires a referendum. So the problem is, and because it has to be before your budget, passing of the budget, it has to be done now at the November election. We looked at all that. We thought we could wait till April rather, the next election. We can't. It has to be done now. And so that's the time frame. I think it's unfortunate that this board has been placed in that little box of time. And I say this with due respect to everyone, but the city is coming out of recovery. We are going into recovery. I mean, we are just at the beginning stages of that. If that's the exit plan, it's very hard for someone going into recovery to look at a tax the same way. The other problem, I think, is the name of the tax, to be very honest with you. It's called payroll tax. What do people think? Oh, you're going to tax my payroll again. Well, it's not the individual's payroll. It's the payroll of the business. That's a hard sell for people to understand when they hear the term payroll. What do they think? Another tax on my payroll. So I think there are some issues that you are facing that might be called a little unfair because the timing is so difficult at this point. But you know, I just know that you cannot afford to lose $7.2 million. You can't afford to lose $100,000.
This is already, you know, a live subject with the voters. We choose not to give them their ability to vote on it. We're just going to look like, how do you want to say it? You don't care, or, you know, I mean, you're at the point right now, my opinion is, I voted to go ahead and go into recovery with the idea of the next board and everybody doing what they can do. And it kind of goes down the same lines that at this point in time, you're going to have, my opinion is, you're going to have to vote to get the information, to make the decision for the new board and the new people and the voters to decide whether this goes forward or not. I mean, that's the only way I see it. I might be wrong, but...
I hate to disagree with you, Ken, but you know what, I'll tell you, you're doing the voters a favor by not putting them in this predicament. Okay, it's pretty clear when you got experts like you said here tonight that really can't put their 100% behind this, okay? And as far as I got a few doubting Thomases, I'm going to hold back a little bit.
I have a lot of doubts.
I certainly wouldn't put it in the voters' hands. If I didn't have the confidence myself, I certainly wouldn't vote to put the voters with, no, I wouldn't do this. I mean, I read this thing and I can't believe it, what happened in Pittsburgh, all right, and the revenue that they lost the first year, and it took them 11 years. Now, Doctor, you have a 5-year plan ahead of you, okay? And you're going to be looking to this new board to do a lot of inventive things, all right? Now, believe me, in my 20 years here, I've done a lot of inventive things. Whether the paper likes it or not, I have, okay? But let me say this, going forward, this is not going to help that new board. I'm sorry, it's going to put them further. I think we have one of the new board members here tonight. Sarah, right? Sarah, let me just tell you, sweetheart, don't go any further in that black hole. And be careful, because you know the state is not our friend here. All right? And believe it or not, as this plan goes forward, and I know the doctor can't speak for the state, even though she works for the state, she doesn't speak for them. All right? They are not going to be the Calvary. All right? The people that are in this audience are going to be your Calvary. They're the ones that are going to save your day. All right? Because it's going to be on the backs of the people in this city that are going to save this school district. Not the state and not this plan, that's for sure.
Okay.
Anything else on the agenda?
That's it.
All right. I'll make a motion.
Okay. Are we going to go right into the board meeting?
Yes.
Ready? The call to order tonight, Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019, board meeting at the Electric City Academy. We've already stood for the pledge. Do we call roll call again, Virginia?
I will.
Go ahead.